So once we have our solution, and let me explain something about the solution. Visual Studio is nice because what it does is any project that you create, whether it's a complete web application, a complete Windows application, whatever, all of your projects are actually stored in a single solution file. So it's pretty much a hierarchical organization of all of the parts that make up your particular application. So what we want to do is we want to add our first project to our solution, and you can add as many projects as you want. I've actually worked on programs that had 64 projects in them. But for right now, all we want to do is we just want to add a single project. So if we go up to the solution and you right-click on the solution itself, you'll see Add, and then what you can do is you can add a new project. So once we click Add New Project, it's going to bring this screen back up, and what we're going to want to do is go under Visual C# and make sure you're right under the right language, because you'll actually add a file for a different language. And I actually did that last week by accident. So I started writing Visual Basic when I was trying to write Visual C#. So make sure that you select your language, and then underneath Web is where we're actually going to add our ASP.NET web application. And what we're going to do is we're going to come down here and give it a name again. So we can name it the same as our solution, but it's better if you have a different name for each project as opposed to just my first website. So for this one, we'll actually create a wedding website. So what we'll do is we'll just type in wedding. And again, you'll see the location that it puts it under. It actually puts it under the projects folder inside the My First Website folder. And if you wanted to, you could actually go ahead and choose a different location, but to keep along with the idea of the solution and everything's in the solution, we'll just keep it in there. So we'll go ahead and click OK. What Visual Studio is doing right now is it's adding all of the files and folders that are actually going to make up our website. Now, the references, properties, we're going to skip over properties right now, but references are important, because if you need to have access to a different third-party control that you download, or a different part of the .NET framework, then you actually have to add a reference to that particular part. We'll kind of just brief over this right now, as we'll actually be adding references later on once we get to connect to a database, or try to read or write to the actual file system, and so forth. Account, this is actually made when you go through and you create a .NET web application. We actually have a fully functional web application. It doesn't really do a whole lot, but we do have a web application that we can actually run. And up in the toolbar, if you click the Start Debugging, looks like a little play symbol. It might not necessarily be located right here. It might be off to the side or down in the second row or something. But you can actually run this, and it'll actually open up the website, and you'll see what Visual Studio has created for you. I'm not actually going to do that right now, because what we're going to do is we're going to go through and clean this up so that we can start fresh with our own controls and pages that we want to build our website on. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the account folder. So just go down to delete, and it asks you, all the contents will be deleted permanently. Just click OK. The other one that we're going to do is about, default, and site master. And how I select all three of those was I clicked on the first one, and then I held the control key on my keyboard, and then I clicked on the additional ones. Now when we delete the one, we actually delete all three of them, and you'll see that we now just have the basic files that we need in order to start building our website. So the first thing that we want to do is we actually want to add a couple folders in our project itself. And if you remember, we named our project Wedding. When you click on that and right click, you go down to Add, and we want to add a new folder. And that folder, we want to name it Images. So we're going to have a folder where all of our images for the entire site are going to be stored. After that, we want to add another folder, and we want to call it masters because these are where the master pages are going to go, and I'll explain what master pages are later. If you wanted to add videos, we would create another folder and call it videos. Okay, so now we have a couple additional folders in here. We have images, masters, styles, scripts, and videos. And I know I said those out of order, but those are what we have. Now, if we look inside the styles folder, just click the little arrow, we see a folder called site.css. We're actually going to go ahead and delete that one because that was part of what Visual Studio created for us. And we're going to add a new one. Okay, so how you add a new one is you right click on it, go to add, and then you want to add new item. In here, what we're going to do is we're going to add what's called a style sheet. It's a CSS style sheet or cascading style sheet. So we're going to single click on there, and then we're going to give our style sheet a name down here. And usually what I do is I just do default. And when we click add, we can now see that it creates the new file, and it actually opens it up in our main programming window. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to create our master page. Now, what the master page is, it's the base page for the entire layout of what the finished site is going to look like. And the reason we do this is because if we make one single change to the master page, it's actually duplicated across all of the pages on the site that use that master page as their foundation page. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on masters, go to add new item, and then in here we see master page. And we're just going to call this main master, or actually just main. Okay, when we add that to the project, we see under our masters folder we now have main.master, and this right here is all just standard HTML programming, HTML code, HTML tags. So if you've ever done any type of HTML programming, a lot of these tags will look familiar. You have your HTML tag, you have your head tag, you have your title tag, you have your body tag, form tags, and div tags. Any tag that you open, you also have to close. So if you see your HTML tag up here, that's the opening tag, and then down here we have a closing tag with a /HTML. Same way with the body. We have body and then /body. We have head and /head. We have title and /title, and so on. The only differences with an ASP page or ASP.NET page is we have what's called content placeholders, and those are included in the head, and there's also one in the body by default. This, because it's a master page, this is where all of the content for each page is going to be placed inside the master page. So if you think of it, it's actually a perfect name for it. It's a placeholder for all of the content that is going to be on your default page, or all of the content that's going to be on your photos page. All of that content is going to go inside this tag right here. So with that in mind, anything we put outside of that tag is going to be included in the master page. So if we have a photos page, anything regarding the photos themselves are inside the content placeholder. But let's say that we have a menu system. Well, what we'll do is we'll put the menu system outside of the content placeholder, so that all we need to do is change the menu system out here, and it's actually replicated across all of the different pages that use this master page as the base page. So as we go through it, it'll make a little bit more sense when we actually start writing the code. But you can see that wherever this master page is used, all of that code is actually outside the actual content of the individual page that you're on. So if you have a website that has 5 different pages and one master page, as long as all 5 of those pages use the master page as the foundation or the base, then you can make that change on the master page and it is reflected across all 5 pages.